All right, my friends. As I said, this week I'm going to be going for a bit of a vacation, and we won't have classes tomorrow, which is Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. So here is the Chumash part of this. This week we're learning Parshat Taitzai. And there are, in this Torah portion, more commandments than in any other portion of the Torah. To be more precise, 73 commandments, 26 positive commandments, and 47 negative commandments. And so let's go through them quickly. It'll have to be pretty quickly. And if you want more details, but at least to know that there is such a thing, which commandments there are. So ready? Here we go. 1 minute. Let's make this bigger. Some people said the picture here should be bigger. So who am I to argue? There we go. Good, good. All right, so let's count them. There's going to be 73 commandments. 47 prohibitions, 26 commandments to do. Here we go. Number 1, commandment. First commandment, positive commandment, Mitzvot Taseh. Lasot kadin b'yafator. You have to follow the law of the beautiful woman. What's the law of the beautiful woman? It says that if you go out to war, Jewish people, they go out to war, and they take prisoners, and they see among the prisoners a beautiful woman, so it's permissible for the soldier to have relations with her one time before she converts, and then he takes her into his house, and there's a whole procedure that he has to do to see if she'll convert. And if not, then he has to let her go. Positive commandment. Negative commandment. Prohibition. Lo yichveshenu laudos. If he doesn't want her, after he has relations with her, he can't take her as a slave. He has to let her go. 3 positive commandments. You'll have to look into these. There's more details than what I'm telling you, but just to let you know that there is such a strange commandment as this. And they say, how can it possibly be? This is the only ones that went out to war in those days were the tzaddikim, totally righteous Jews, and they would take the tablets with them sometimes, at least the broken tablets. So it says the reason was because there would be sparks of holiness in all of the items that they used, and occasionally would even be in this woman. And that's what we're learning in the morning. We'll see. We'll skip to see there's a whole procedure, what has to be done to this woman in order to refine the sparks of holiness therein. Positive commandment. A person that curses against God's names, 3rd of the 10 commandments, or that worships idolatry, that's the 2nd of the 10 commandments, is punishable by stoning. We'll get to the stoning part later, but after he is stoned, he has to be hung up. They hang him. How do they hang him? By his hands. So they lift him up, even briefly. They lift him up by 2 hands, and they hang him on the tree. And they'll briefly hang him up, and then he has to be, we'll see, there's more commandments here involved. Next. Positive commandment. 1 minute. We have to go faster, but I'm sorry. We have to be accurate also. Here we go. Okay, negative commandment. Not to leave the body of this person that's hanged, right, hanged up on his hands, overnight. Lo talin nevilasom. This is also the law. Generally, we try in Judaism, if a person dies, not to leave the body overnight. We try to bury it in the same day. Efforts are made to not leave the body in the night. You can leave it if it's for the honor, like for people to come from far away. Okay, we have to go faster. At this rate, we'll never finish. Positive commandment: to bury, B-U-R-Y, to bury those who are killed, who have been killed by the court. They should be buried, if possible, on that day. Positive commandment. Next, two more positive commandments. A positive commandment that if you find a lost item, you should return it. The positive commandment is if you find a lost item of a Jew, you have to return it. Really, you have to return any lost item, but it's only a commandment to do so from the Torah if it's a Jew. Negative commandment: don't take the lost item, the item that you found, to yourself. Don't try to hide it. You have to announce it. You have to do everything that you can to return it back to its owner. Negative commandment: to find the owner. Negative commandment: don't leave the animal. If you see a Jew's animal, the animals used to be suburban. Now they don't. Now they have trucks and things like that. But it's a general thing. You have to help people. Here's a commandment though, because it's forbidden to see animals suffer. And the language is, if you see a donkey or the ox of your friend suffering under its burden, you put too much on it, or the animal is old or whatever. So you should help him to. I'm sure you shouldn't ignore him. Negative commandment. Positive commandment: you should put the burden back on the animal. Help the animal to stand up under its burden. Help the animal to stand up. This one is that you should help, if necessary, to. Yeah, okay, good. Help the animal to stand up if you see it's having difficulties. Two more commandments. Negative commandments. A woman should not put garments of a male. A woman is not allowed to dress like a man. Next commandment: a man. What happened over here? A man is not. Here it is. And a man is a negative commandment. A man is not allowed to dress like a woman. Forbidden from the Torah. Negative commandment: if you happen to see a nest, a bird's nest, don't take the mother and send away. It has to be a not domesticated bird. We're not talking about chickens or even domesticated pigeons. It has to be that you happen across a non-domestic wild bird. You want to take the chicks or the eggs, send away. First of all, don't take the mother and leave the children there. You have to send the mother away, and then you can take the chicks or the eggs. Don't take the mother and leave the eggs untended. Send the mother away, and then you can take the eggs or the chicks. Positive commandment: you have to send away. This is don't send her away. Don't take the eggs. Sorry, mistake. Don't take the mother home and leave the eggs alone. Negative commandment. Positive commandment: do send the mother away. The mother bird. Send the mother away. That's called shiluach hakein. So if you come across a nest, a bird's nest, you're not allowed to take the bird alone and eat it. You have to send the bird away. Then if the bird comes back and there's no eggs on then you can take the mother. Positive, and that's only a wild bird, not a domesticated bird. Domesticated bird you can take off. Positive commandment: that you have to make a fence around your roof of your house, so that if it's a roof that people walk on, a straight roof, right, that nobody will fall from it. So if you have a building that's flat and people go on top of the building, there has to be a fence around it. Negative commandment: not to in general, put a stumbling block on your house. What does it mean? And not to put to cause something that might be a danger in your house, a hole in your on your property, the balance bricks on the top of your roof so that they could fall down on someone. It's permissible. It is forbidden to cause danger to someone else in your property. Negative commandment, not to plant wheat or one of the grains in your vineyard. You're not allowed to plant grapes and other things together. That's called kilayim. Here especially it's called tavua. But really there's very complicated laws, and if you're a farmer, you have to know these laws. And if you do, then you can't eat the grapes. They're forbidden forever, and so is the produce. It's called kilayim. Negative commandment. You're not allowed to eat from this kilayim, like we said before. It's a special commandment if it's grapes and others. Okay, next. Another mixture that's forbidden. You're not allowed to plow with an ox and a donkey together. Huh? In other words, any two types of animals. You can't tie an ox together with a dog or something and a camel and pull together. Why not? That's what God said. Negative commandment, not to put on a garment. You're not allowed to wear a garment that is made with wool and linen. Wool and linen woven in together. That's called shatnez. Huh? Did you know that? Forbidden to wear a garment that is made of shatnez, wool and linen. What type of wool? Okay, you'll see the laws. It has to be wool from a sheep, from a ram, etc. Positive commandment that if you want to get married to a woman, a man, a Jewish man and a Jewish woman, has to be a proper woman. Then there's all sorts of laws about who you can marry, right? If you can't marry your sister, you can't marry your mother, you can't marry a woman that hasn't been divorced. Right? Nevertheless, that's a whole thing in itself. If you do find a woman that's permissible for you to marry, and you want to marry her, then you have to marry her according to a certain procedure, which is called kiddushin. Right? It has to be official. There's supposed to be witnesses. You have to give her money or a document or whatever, and then she officially becomes your wife. There's a whole tractate in the Talmud written about this called kiddushin. A marriage document, you have to keep. There's a lot of laws from the rabbis also. Positive commandment that a person who gets married to a woman and he announces that that she tricked him. She said that she was a virgin, Betula, and she lied. She wasn't a virgin. So he announces this, and it's discovered that he was lying. The law is that if she wants to, of course, he can never divorce her. Lo isha, he can never divorce her. He has to provide for her for the whole rest of his life, unless she wants to. I mean, if she doesn't, she's not forced to be married to him. But in those days, especially, there was many more women than there were men. I think it's the same thing pretty much now, but there's more women than there were men, and especially because a woman, the working market wasn't such as this, and so the man had to provide for the woman. And there's a lot of laws about that a man had to provide for the woman. So if this man gets married to a woman, and for whatever weird reason it is, he announces that she said that she was a virgin and she's not, and it ends up that he was lying, so he can never divorce her. Negative commandment. The positive commandment is he has to stay married to her. Negative commandment, he cannot divorce her. Positive commandment. Those crimes which are punishable by stoning to death, stoning has to be used. And what the things are stoning? There's idolatry and things which are stoned. There's a whole list of things that are. There's 4 different types of death penalties in Judaism, and each one applies to different sins. Only you can't take whatever you want. Different sins, and because the whole idea of a death penalty is to purify the person, to correct the person, and for some stoning, and for some, and according to Kabbalah, there's different reasons why the 4 names, the 4 different types of death correspond to the 4 letters of God's name. In any case, how was a person stoned? By the way, he was taken up to a tower. If it was a man, it was undressed. Just his privates were covered up. A woman remained with clothes, and his hands were tied together, and he was taken up to a tower that was like, I don't know, 12 feet high or something like that, 14 feet high, and he was pushed off on his back. And if he lived, then they would take a stone. 2 men would take a stone and they would throw it on his chest. And if that didn't work, then the whole crowd would stone him to death. Pretty gruesome. Negative commandment. The death penalty ceased in Judaism about, what is it? Like about 2,000 years ago, before the destruction of the Second Temple. There was no more death penalty anymore. Negative a prohibition not to punish someone who sinned under duress. Someone who was forced to sin, a crazy person, whatever, or somebody someone put a gun to his head and said, defile Shabbat. Even if he put a gun to his head and said, okay, if you don't kill this person, I'm going to kill you. So the law is that you're supposed to allow yourself to be killed rather than kill somebody else. Or there's 2 other types of crimes. Do a sexual crime, right? Have relations with someone's wife or whatever, or to idolatry. You're supposed to give your life. But if you don't give your life, you're not punished because you were under duress. Not to punish someone who sinned, was forced to sin. Positive commandment. If someone rapes a woman, he has to marry her. If she wants, he has to marry her. He can't send her away. Negative commandment. That's the negative commandment. That's the positive part. He has to marry her. The negative part is he cannot divorce her for the rest of his life. Of course, this is only with her agreement. Negative commandment. You're not allowed to, a man who is a Petzua Daka of a Kruv Shafcha cannot marry a Jewish woman. What's Petzua Daka? There's something wrong with his organ of procreation. If there's something wrong with his organ of procreation that he can't have children, he's not allowed to marry a Jewish woman. And there's certain exceptions and etc., but nevertheless, that's the law. Negative commandment, prohibition. A mamzer cannot marry a Jewish woman. And also, a mamzer, what's a mamzer? A mamzer is any Jew which comes as a relationship, as a result of a relationship that's punishable by death. A man has relations with someone else's wife, with his mother, with his sister, with him. In all these cases, a relationship which is punishable by death, a child that's born from that relationship is called a mamzer. The most common one, of course, is, God forbid, is a woman that didn't get divorced. She didn't get divorced. She left her husband left her, and she has relations with somebody else. The child is a mamzer. Even if it was by accident, even if her husband went away far away and came witnesses and said, your husband was killed, we saw him die, and she gets married to someone, and her husband comes back. If she had children with that someone, the children are called mamzerim. And a mamzer is forbidden to get married to a Jew, and if he does, then his children are always called mamzer. They're always called mamzer. Even if he gets married to the man of a woman, she's a mamzer, so all of her children are always mamzerim. even if she gets married to a non-Jew. Strange law. On the face of it, not very fair, but the deep part of it is that there are what's called reincarnations. Judaism believes in reincarnation, and a lot of times if a person did something wrong in one incarnation, as he comes back, and in this punished way that he is, right? Let's say in the previous incarnation he had relations with married women. So now it could be that he'll come back and be reincarnated into a mamzer that he can't get married to any Jewish woman. I don't know, I'm just making that up, but nevertheless, there is such a thing as reincarnations, and that's pretty much the only explanation for this thing of mamzer. Maybe there is, I guess I could look into the Arizal, there are probably other deeper reasons. But on the face of things, it seems very unfair. Negative commandment on you're not allowed to marry a convert that came from Ammon and, a convert from Ammon and Moab cannot marry a Jewish woman. Nowadays, we don't know who these people are. It says since Sennacherib came near the end of the first temple, and he confused the whole world, so therefore we don't know. Here we have a similar, you're not allowed to, if you make war against Ammon and Moab, you're not allowed to call to them for peace. Usually when you make war, the Jews make war, they call for peace, first of all, to see if the people want to surrender. But now with Ammon and Moab. Negative commandment, prohibition, do not, push away a convert that comes from Edom after 2 generations, which they're all from 2. No, like I said before, nobody knows. Let's see, do we have this over here? It is. Anyway, it says that since Sennacherib came and he mixed up the whole world, so a negative commandment, not to hate a Mitzri that converts 2 generations. A 3rd generation is okay. Again, to stress, the Mitzrim that there are today, Egypt, everybody's different. Even the Arabs today that claim they come from Yishmael, they don't come from Yishmael. It's not so. There was a king which is called King Sennacherib, and he conquered the whole entire world. His destruction came when he tried to make a war against Yehuda before the second temple was destroyed. Sennacherib. Anyway, he scattered the whole world around, took all the people from every country and moved them to a different country. And that way he figured he would keep everybody uncertain and they wouldn't rebel against him. And it pretty much worked, but he was defeated by the Jews, I think. Anyway, whatever happened, that's what he did. So as a result, the only nation which is the same nation now as it was in the time of the Torah is the Jews, except for that Yishmael and Edom and all these others, they've all been mixed up. So negative commandment, you're not allowed to let an impure person in the camp of the Levites, which, as far as we're concerned, the camp of the Levites, that's the Har HaBayit. That's where the temple is, the mountain where the temple is. Okay. An impure person cannot. You'll see what the implications of this. A positive commandment, that if you go out to war, you have to have a special place. In a war, you have to have a special place for a toilet. You have to be outside of the camp, that there has to be a toilet. People shouldn't just go to the bathroom wherever they want to. Positive commandment, that every one has to have a shovel on their instruments, especially soldiers, but they have to have a shovel that if they happen to be a place where there is no toilet, that they shouldn't go to the bathroom on the open ground. They should dig a hole and defecate in that hole and cover it over. Negative command, prohibition. Not if a Jewish slave runs away. What's a Jewish slave? A Jewish slave is a person, either he was so poor that he sold himself into slavery, or he owed money, especially if he was a thief. He owed money and he couldn't pay it back. That's number one. Or he was a thief and he couldn't pay it back, and the court sold him. But sometimes there could be a person that was poor, and because he didn't have any money, he was indigent. So therefore, he could sell himself. And then there's another one that he owed money or he was caught stealing and he couldn't repay the money that he owed, as then the court can sell him. And there's different laws if he's sold by himself or not. But in any case, if a Jewish servant was bought outside of Israel and he ran from outside of Israel to Israel, so you're not allowed to return him back to his owners that live outside of Israel. Okay, there's also laws about how to free a slave. You have to give him a document, etc. But that's not now. Negative commandment. There are no Jewish slaves today. Negative commandment, not to have relations with a Jewish woman without marrying her. A Jewish woman that gives herself to sexual relations without marriage is called Kadesha. Kadesha basically means a prostitute. That's what even if she does it without money. Not for money. Kadesha. Another thing is what we did is a woman, that's the man, is not to have a relationship with a woman like this. A woman is not to 1 second. Yeah, okay, good. That's what it was. A woman is also not allowed to do this. So it says, Lo Kadesha mi benot Yisrael. That's called a Kadesha. There was also in this category is also a prostitute, a Jewish prostitute. It's forbidden to be. Negative commandment, not to bring etnon zona or mechir kelev to the temple. Strange law says the wages of a prostitute or how do you say that if you sold a dog, the money you get for a dog, you're not allowed to bring that for anything in the temple. You can't buy offerings with it or anything. Can't do with it. Okay, the detailed laws. Prohibition. You're not allowed to loan money to a Jew with interest. You're not allowed to take interest from a loan. How they do it in the bank, ask your rabbi. Some sort of a trick they do where they say it's not really, it's like a partnership with money. Positive commandment that you should, yes, take interest from a non-Jew. If you sell, I mean, that's the natural thing. Nobody loans money without taking interest. Everybody, unless it's like your best bosom friend or your family. So not taking interest is very weird. This is for a non-Jew, you must take interest. You can take 0.5% if you want, but you have to take interest. From a Jew, it's forbidden to take interest at all. On a loan. Negative commandment. Negative commandment. Not if you make a vow to the temple, you're not allowed to delay. If you make a vow, you're going to bring an offering to the temple, you have to bring it by the next holiday. And if there passes 3 holidays, then there's a punishment. Then there's 2. Positive commandment. That anything that you say and you promise, you must keep your promises, especially if it's a vow. Positive commandment. If you have someone that works for you in the field, let's say he's eating grapes or whatever, you have to allow him to eat while he is working. Anything that is edible, you have to allow him to eat when he is working. You can't say don't eat. Negative commandment. The worker should not eat in the time when he's eating, because that takes away from but only when he finishes his job, etc. When he finishes working, and then he can eat. Negative commandment, the worker should not take what he's eating from the produce that he's working home. Right? He can only take what he needs to eat. He can't take home for his family and etc. Unless he gets permission, but he can. Positive commandment. If one wants to divorce a woman, he has to divorce her with a proper document. It's called a get. That's what they call it. And there are 9 things which the details that there has to be in order to divorce a woman. It has to be written, he has to give it to her, she has to receive it, etc. There's a whole tractate in the Talmud written about this. Negative commandment, you can, if someone divorces a woman and she gets married to someone else afterwards, the first husband can't take her back. Negative commandment. You're not someone who gets married. A man gets married. He's not supposed to go out to war or any communal work service for the first year. But the first year he has to be with his wife. Positive commandment that the groom should devote himself to his wife for 1 full year. Right? He is to treat her nicely, bring her gifts, etc. In other words, he shouldn't go to devote himself to anything else for 1 full year. And here's all the details, what exactly that means. Negative commandment. If someone borrows money from you, you're not allowed to take from him food. You're not allowed to take from him, vessels that he needs for his livelihood. It says, Lo yachbol rechaim b'rechev ki nefesh hu chobel. Right? Someone who loans you money and he has a mill in his house, right, that he grinds wheat for eating, you're not allowed to take that mill as a surety. You're not allowed to. Negative commandment. Take something else, but you're not allowed to take. And if it's anything else that he needs, also, you have to give it back to him every day when he needs it. As a plow or whatever, he plows his ground with it. He gives it to you, but you have to return it when he needs it, and then he gives it back to you in the nighttime when he doesn't need it. Strange law. He borrows from you $10,000, and he puts up his car as a surety or his taxi. You have to give him back that taxi whenever he needs it for work, and then he brings it to you. Negative commandment. If a person has tzorat is this skin, this how do you say, the aberrations in color of the skin, which indicates a certain type of impurity that the person has. So if you cut off these signs, you hide them, you won't know that the person has this skin that has this impurity. So if a person is impure, right, he has like a white coloring on his skin, so he can just get some, I'd say, flesh-colored paint over it. That's pretty simple. It says you're not allowed to do that. There's also the impurity has usually hairs, two black hairs growing from it. You're not allowed to cut those hairs. You can't do anything to hide the fact the person that he's impure. And the impurity of tzorat is very severe. Even if he's in a house, everything in the house becomes impure. It's almost like a dead body. Negative commandment. Nevertheless, you're not allowed to hide it. You're not allowed to take a surety from a debtor by force. Someone owes you $1,000 and he has something in his house, right? He's got his guitar is worth, and he doesn't pay you back. You're not allowed to go into the house and take this thing from him by force and say, I'm holding on to your guitar until you pay me back. You can't do that. Negative commandment. Not to withhold. I told you about this before. If somebody gives you a collateral, a surety, then you have to give it back to him whenever he needs it. You're not allowed to hold it. Positive commandment. Negative commandment, you're not allowed to hold on to it. Positive commandment, you must give it back to him whenever he needs it. That's the positive commandment. Positive commandment. A person that works for you, you have to pay him at the end of that day, unless you have an agreement. But you have to pay him every day remember we learned that in the Sikh of the Rebbe. Negative commandment, the court should not receive testimony from a person who was a relative of one of the litigants. You're not allowed to, if it's irrelevant. Negative commandment. A judge is not allowed to incline, how do you say, to tilt the judgment of a convert or a an orphan. An orphan. In other words, you can't be strict with them because they have no one to protect them. So you might think the judge can think, oh, I've got nothing to worry about. Anyway, you're not allowed to tilt their din in any way, also for their good or for their bad. Negative, you're not allowed to tilt anybody's judgment, but if you do it for them, it's a double punishment. Negative commandment, not to take a garments from a widow. A widow borrows money, you're not allowed to take her garments, like it says, lo tachbol beged almana. Whether they're rich or they're poor, right? She makes a loan of $1,000 and she says that she'll put up her wardrobe for collateral. You're not allowed to do it. You have to say, put something else up. And put something else up for collateral. Maybe you have a diamond ring or something like that. That could be part of the garments. I don't know. Could be a diamond ring. Maybe you have a shovel, maybe. Negative commandment. Not to, if when you're harvesting, if you leave behind a bundle of wheat, you're not allowed to go back and take it. Like it says, "V'shachachta omer b'sadeh." Lo tashuv, you're not allowed to go back and take it again. Positive commandment, to leave omer that you forgot in the field. So it's a negative commandment, don't go back and take it. And a positive commandment to leave it there. Who do you leave it for? Poor people. When there was the harvest in Israel, so the poor people would gather around, and there were 3-4 things that were left. The corners of the field had to be left, and the shichacha had to be left, and the olos and the parrot also from the vineyards had to be left, and the stalks had to be left. All those things that were left behind generally were for the poor people. Positive commandment to give lashes to anyone who is guilty and has found guilty of, and the punishment is lashes. In other words, to administer lashes when it's necessary. How would they lash a person? They would tie him up to a post. He would be sort of leaning forward, and someone that was very strong would give him lashes. How many would they give? You can never give more than 39 lashes, and they would have a doctor there. They would estimate how much the person could receive, and if they saw that the person couldn't receive that many, let's say after 2 or 3, they saw the person was fainting or whatever, so they would stop, because it's not punishable by death. There's not a death punishment. You're not allowed to kill a person by lashes. Negative commandment, not to, if an animal is working, plowing, you're not allowed to stop him from plowing. How would you stop him? Put a muzzle. You're not allowed to muzzle the animal when he is plowing. You have to let him eat. Negative commandment, not to marry like this, not to marry a woman who died childless if her husband's brother is still alive. A woman that's married to a man, and that man has a brother, and that woman dies with no children, she must marry the brother of her dead husband. And she cannot marry anyone else. It's forbidden. It's called that yaboma. Positive commandment. The brother of the dead man must marry that dead man's wife, right? 2 brothers, like I said before, 2 brothers, one of them gets married to a lady. That brother that gets married to the lady, he dies, they don't have any children. The living brother, the surviving brother, he must marry this woman, right? If they don't have any children. That's called the whole law of Yibum. There's a whole tractate on that. Positive commandment. If the does not want to marry this woman. So he performs a thing called what's called chalitza. Chalitza means that he puts a shoe on and she takes the shoe and she spits in the ground in front of him. In any case, it's a whole process, and that's called chalitza. That she frees herself from her obligation to marry this brother. Positive commandment: if you see someone running after another Jew to kill him, that you're allowed to kill that person who is pursuing. But if it's not necessary to kill him, if you can save him in another way, like cutting off his arm or something, you have to try to cut the person's arm. Negative commandment: not to have any mercy on a person who is a rodef, a person who you're sure wants to kill someone else. You shouldn't have any mercy on him. You're allowed to kill him. Don't say, well, why should I kill him? I mean, one person is going to die anyway. Why should I be involved in the whole thing? But no, don't have any mercy on him. But this is a law. This is also what if he wants to rape someone, a woman, etc. Are you allowed to kill him? Here's the laws. Prohibition: not to have in your possession false weights or measures, even if you don't use them. You're not allowed to have false weights. Positive commandment: you are supposed to remember what Amalek did to us. Like it says, remember what Amalek did. Remember, Amalek was a nation that tried to kill all the Jews. Positive commandment: to cut off the seed of Amalek. We'll only know who that is when Mashiach comes. Negative commandment: not to forget what Amalek did to the Jewish people. Some people say it's the Nazis, who knows? And that are all the 73 commandments in this week's Torah portion. Have a good day with Mashiach. Now, God willing, I am going to try to at least a couple of classes to record them early so that you'll be able to see them when I'm not here. The next time I'll actually be giving classes will be, I think, on Thursday afternoon, but on Friday in the morning for sure. Shalom uvracha. Have a good day with Mashiach now.